yeah. And this means yes. So it's like, do you have that? Yes. So it's like confusing. This means no, and this means yes. So in Greece and in Albania, but more so in Albania. So yeah, that was kind of weird. But also, I went into that beach place, and I was like, before I got my food, I was like, yeah, do you take credit card? And the guy's like, yes, we do. I was like, are you sure? He's like, yes. And then so I got some food, and then it turns out that they didn't, and it kind of pissed me off because now I was like, didn't have any food or money. And what am I gonna do? Ride to the next town with no food or money? It's bonk territory. But then there's this American guy who was interested in me, talking to me. He was from Alaska, a teacher, and he was there visiting his sister, who was like working his husband worked at the consulate, and they were there with her two kids. And anyway, they offered to drive me all the way to near the border of Germany or Greece. So it was cool. We hung out and they talked, and we chatted, and she told me about Albania because she lived there. And that's when they pulled me the pillboxes. I was like, what are those things? Are those like barbecue pits? They're all over the place. Pillboxes, little concrete shells to hide in with your machine gun to shoot at the Americans who invade. And I guess he made 10,000 of them along the coast. And then there was all these collapsed concrete shell of buildings. And I guess all these developers, develop the buildings, and then the government or the cops go in and dynamite them, and they collapse because they don't pay the bribe or the official fee or something. But we saw them all over the place. It was ridiculous. I mean, those people need to get their shit together. Plus, they have a lot of honor killings or something, like revenge killings there. There's lots of murder going on. Like this one woman, a coworker of hers, was killed because he was invited to his neighbor's house to help unwrap a TV that he thought was a gift from some game show, but it was all an elaborate hoax. Because the TV was, once he unwrapped it, it was a bomb that exploded and killed both of them. So it killed the neighbor and him. So, and then actually Malvina said that in her home village, because she's from a tiny little village way up in the mountains, she said like some girl from there killed a guy because he was going to kidnap her. Because there's kidnap is really bad there. Albanians go in there, kidnap little girls, and then take them out of the country to like Amsterdam. I don't think Amsterdam, though. I didn't see any situations like that in Amsterdam. But anyway, turn them into child prostitutes somewhere. And so some guy was going to do that, but they were aware of the dangers. So she killed the guy. She shot the guy with a gun. So then her brothers had to go in hiding for like 7 years because the guy who got killed's brothers were going to try and kill her brothers as revenge for killing their brother for trying to kidnap her to turn her into a fucking child prostitute. And I guess sexism is really bad there too, because Malvina was she was a feisty girl, but she kind of sounded pissed off at like she had a story that she was up in the mountains and some guy was like you're a spy. You talk with a Kosovar accent, because I guess she talked with a Kosovar accent or something because she was up in the mountains or something like that. You're a spy. You're a spy for the Serbians or somebody. Where's your passport? Well, get my passport if you want it, but I don't know. Anyway, saying stuff about how they don't respect women or something like that. But I don't know. They seemed really cool to me. I was impressed with the Albanians. And so anyway, I wanted to take I was going to stay in a hotel room with this guy, the American guy, and his nephew, and then ride the next day. But they told me that the little boat thing wasn't going to be open the next day. So I decided to go ahead and ride there so I can take the boat thing across the boat line pulley thing across into Greece. Not into Greece, but into the next part of the peninsula, whatever, so that I could ride. And then I rode up, and then I got into Greece, and then I went into Greece. I was excited to get into Greece, man, because Greece is like one of those countries that everyone wants to go to. It's where the dawn of Western civilization. So I went to Greece and ended up, first place I went, they were really friendly. Had a pizza, a really good pizza, I felt like I was in the first world again, after being in the Balkans and poor Albania. I'm in the first world, and the food's good, and that's the most important thing about the first world is the food's good. You know, even though it's really expensive, they're using euros, and all of a sudden I was spending, you know, European prices again. But then I camped out on the beach for free. There was some free campsite, and then I rode. But I got there was some like beach bar or something near there where I had they let me have a shower, and they were interested in me. Filled up my water bottle, or I bought a water bottle from them, so that I wouldn't feel bad about having a shower. So then I rode, yeah, down Greece. But then but then my rack, my original rack finally died. It finally died. The rack part broke off of the frame completely. Actually, it was about to break off, so I grabbed it and I just wiggled it and it broke off the next day. So I rode into some town, but the guy didn't have any racks at that day. He would have had to wait, and none of the other bike rack stores were open. And that's when I bought another video camera, because my video camera fell out of my backpack and then my bag and then died. But then it fixed itself after I sent it back to my mom. But anyway, I took a boat into Patras from some town down, because I didn't want to have to wait a couple days just to buy a rack. I figured I'd just buy a rack in Patras the next day, and then I could get ahead of my schedule, because I felt like I was maybe getting a little bit behind from all the days hanging out in, you know, Belgrade and Sarajevo and Vienna and all this shit. Well, especially Tirana. But yeah, so I got another rack, but it was an aluminum rack. It wasn't nearly as good as my original rack that I got in Boulder, because Boulder, they sell the good racks. But it was okay, you know, it was there. I got, what else did I get? Well, no, I got the video camera at the other place. So yeah, so I'm riding down Greece, man, riding down the coast. All those whitewashed buildings, those white colored buildings. I was like, Greece. And I rode in, and there's some like hot spring area. I was like, what's that? Is that worth it, some dude? And I decided not to go. And then I camped out at the beach, because I wanted to camp out at a beach. And I saw a World Cup game, England versus like Algeria. And then I like jumped in the water and swam around a little bit. It was like the second time swimming in the ocean, you know, because I swam in the ocean, the beach with the Americans, and then took a bath the night before. But then, but then I rode just to 40K into Olympia, Greece, where they had the Olympics. And that was cool. Stayed at a hotel, or stayed at a campsite. But that day, yeah, I did the tour of Olympia, man. Really amazing, Olympia. Just jam-packed with all these like ancient monuments, and one of them was huge. The Temple of Zeus would have been freaking ginormous, man. Oh. And you know, the mythology is that the gods helped them make Olympia. So I think the aliens helped make and help them erect that, because the statue of Zeus would have been like 60 feet high and just huge, sitting there. Huge. One of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And I saw, you know, the remnants of it, and how the things toppled over, and those columns, man, were huge. They were like 6 feet in diameter, you know, huge. But yeah, but there were still like fig trees everywhere and apple trees everywhere and birds, and it's like, man, like, are these the descendants of the trees that the Greeks planted? Because I mean, there's flowers and trees and fruit trees everywhere. It's pretty cool. Anyways, yeah, I was there, and then I was going to leave the next day, but that's when I realized that this new video camera I got was all fucked up with the organization, and I had to convert it. So I decided to stay the entire next day to get that sorted out, figure out what program I was going to use to convert it, how I was going to organize it, because it had a different organization with the, you know, of the videos, and it was like, fuck, man. So, anyways, but that day at 11 o'clock in the morning, some like really hot, fit Swiss chick shows up, bike tourist, and she pitched her tent right next to mine. So I went over and we hung out for like a couple hours and hung and talked, and that was cool. She ran a marathon like 3:30 and didn't think that was fast, and like, but she had a totally different attitude. She thought I was crazy. Well, I guess in a funny way. She's like, "You're traveling so lightly," like. She's like, why not bring this? Only a couple grams. But anyway, she cooked me dinner. Actually finished my dinner. Finished my pasta, because I couldn't finish it, because I had too many gyros. Oh, I love gyros. But anyway, she's like, yeah, I get up at 5 and leave at 6 every day. I'm like, what? I get up at 8 and leave at 10 every day. My God. She's like, yeah, because I like to ride. And then when it gets hot, Then I stopped riding at 11. I'm like, oh yeah. So because she rode like 80 kilometers that morning and then was done. But she'd done 80 kilometers by 11 in the morning and then hung out the rest of the day. Just like, I don't know, like sleeping in the, I saw her sleeping in the shade, you know. But anyway, yeah, sure enough, it's like barely light out and I hear her doing her thing, packing up her tent. And then I go up and I saw her taking off. And, you know, she's riding before 6. I'm like, damn. So anyway, that's why I got up. And that was the earliest I started. I started at 7:30, the earliest I ever started, because I was inspired by this chick. Yeah, so I rode early, and I was riding, and I rode all the way into Sparta that day, over some really big pass, 4,300 meters high, and was really dehydrated when I got to the top of it, but I filled up on some like spring. Rode down into Sparta. Really excited to get to Sparta. Stayed at a campground, and then that day I spent the entire day touring Sparta, which is really cool. You know, the ancient ruins were still there right in town. No tourists. I didn't see a single tourist there. But then I noticed my frame was cracked. And plus, my egg beater pedals shoes kept popping out of the pedals, which is fucking dangerous, man. So I had to buy new power pedals, and I had to get my bike soldered. But what took a really long time, I think I spent 2 nights there because I had to spend 2 days there. Because the second day, yeah, I had to take care of all that biking shit. Because it took a really long time to get my cleats out. Because the cleats got fused to the shoes and I couldn't unscrew it. So I had to the bike shop dude couldn't help me. And he was like getting pissed off at me for like not being able to take it out. You know, it's like, but that's kind of a Greek thing. Like Greeks get fired up pretty easily, like bent out of shape. But they're not really bent out of shape. That's just their personality. They're just hot-headed like the Italians, you know, and the Chileans and Latinos. They're just like and the Romanians. But yeah, and I mean the mechanics were that way too. Like there's this mechanic, because I was trying to get the mechanics to, you know, to solder my bike. They charged me €4 for that, but then they didn't charge me anything to take the cleats out. And they actually insisted on putting the new cleats on, and they put them on backwards. And I was like, they're on backwards. So they put them on right. But like while they were soldering, one guy was like yelling. I think the guy who was soldering my bike was like yelling at his 2 buddies, like really loud. And I thought he was really pissed off, but they weren't like phased, and they were giving me beers. They like gave me 3 beers while I was there watching them and they didn't charge me for it. But he wasn't angry with them. They're just like that. Greeks, they're just, they're like that. Spartans, this is Sparta. But yeah, I got up really early the next day. I rode out, beautiful riding up and down hills, and then I went to we're down this really cool downhill past Argos, Jason and the Argonauts. On the top of the hill, there's this big castle, and then I went farther, and then I went to Mycenae. Mycenae, that's where Agamemnon, the guy who led all the Greeks to kill the Trojans, that's where his place was. And yeah, built huge rocks. The giant Cyclops were supposed to be the guys who built those rocks. And then I saw the Treasure of Atreus, the big dome inside inside some hill, built with, and you know, the doorway, the capstone from the doorway was bigger than my car. 3 times bigger than my car. The lady said it was 120 tons. Look way bigger than that. Aliens, dude. Anunnaki, I'm telling you. Plus, there were these other stones that were way big. It was like, yeah, right, you know. But anyway, then I continued riding and went into Corinth. So I went into Corinth. Stayed at a campsite. It was like a campsite for camper vans. So the guy didn't want to charge me because I guess it was a campsite for camper vans. So that was cool. And I got internet. I had internet and a plug-in that I could plug into, and a light, and a shower right next to me. So I'm here doing Skype with my mom in my tent for free. It was pretty cool. And then I did Corinth again, because the first time I did Corinth, it wasn't enough time to film it all. And I think my battery was out or something. So I did Corinth again the next day and filmed it all. The first day I just walked around, then I filmed it. Corinth was amazing. Really big. I mean, you could see the ruins from all of the aqueducts